Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to my podcast. My name is Lynette. Today we're going to talk about thanking God for this opportunity to live. And in doing so, I think that circles back to gratitude. And gratitude is a very interesting thing because life in general has so many ups and downs, so many curveballs. The majority of it is good, but for some reason we focus more on the curveballs that are thrown at us. And we really need to stop and look at what we've taken for granted and be grateful. And I think when we get into that mode of gratitude is when we flourish ourselves. I believe that brings happiness because it makes us realize what we have in our lives that is so valuable. And it's usually not anything that money can buy. It's not about your looks. It's not about your clothes. Usually it starts with the people that are in your life. If you live and walk in a spirit of gratitude, you don't have that feeling of lack. The only reason you have a feeling of lack is when you're always focused on reaching out, wanting more that's basically intangible for you to get because you're never there. You're never completely satisfied. But if you have that feeling of satisfaction based on what you already have, you realize how fortunate you are right here and now. So why would we want to live in the future always reaching for what's intangible to us, always thinking that it's going to make life better? I remember, it's been a lot of years now, but I was having lunch with my girlfriend and I was dissatisfied with things for some reason. I can't remember what was going on in my life. And I was expressing to her about my dissatisfaction with things. And then the next time I met with her, she said that she got an answer for me, and it was that I have everything I need in my own backyard. Now, that was a symbol. It didn't literally mean everything is in my backyard. What she was saying is that I already have everything I need. And she was so right, and it's so very, very true because when I look at what I have such gratitude. I mean, I am grateful for everything I have. But when I look back at the things that I thought I really wanted, and they were out of reach, and I've shared with you about my health, and as my health started to decline, the things that I was reaching for got further and further away. But now, in hindsight, when I look back, and I think about the things that were so important to me at that time, they just don't hold the same importance. It's about, and this was in an earlier episode, it's about keeping your priorities straight. I don't know why we take for granted what we already have, but really think about what is the most important to you. Who is the most important to you? Who is there for you? And that in itself are the people that you need to be so grateful for. Friends, significant others, spouse, children, anybody that can give you emotions, a love, a hug, a feeling of warmth, of gratitude. And we really need to turn around and look at what we already have. Not what is out of our reach, but what we already have. And when you do that, when you start to follow being grateful for what you have, and you just live, you tend to smile a little bit more. And the things that you thought were so important, you realize aren't so important. It's funny, I don't know if you've noticed when you finally aren't as attached to something, when you're not hanging on to it with all fours, when you finally let go is when it seems to come around. And that's how it works with gratitude with life. When you are grateful for what you have, then you can breathe and make room for other things to come to you. But you have to look at the other things with the right attitude. You have to be grateful for what comes to you. Another thing about being grateful for this life is that I've noticed, even on TV shows or just in general, the question is for so many is, why is life so hard? So let's think about that. Does life need to be so hard? When I first started this podcast, I can't remember what episodes there are, but when it first started, I believe it's somewhere within the first 7 episodes. One is on keeping your priorities straight. One is on it's not my business. In other words, when things are going on with someone else, don't judge them because it is not your business what they do, the decisions they make, the choices they make. Don't gossip. When you gossip, you don't feel good. And let the past go. I know I have a friend and we really would hash out the past. I mean, we would talk for hours on the phone. And I found that sometimes when we would hang up, I didn't feel as good as I did when I first initiated the phone call. So it's living in the past, thinking about what you've been through, what frustrations there are. Letting all that go and living in the present is another way. So what I'm saying is that, no, to answer this question, life does not have to be so hard. You just need to apply some basics. And those basics are the ones that I just mentioned to you. If you look at life as if it's hard, you need to readjust your thinking. You need to make a decision to look at it in a different way. You need to tweak your thoughts a little bit. And one of the things, along with what we mentioned earlier, keeping your priorities straight, things that aren't your business, don't judge, don't gossip, and that is being a leader and not a follower. Look at yourself, look at your life. Are you always on the shirt tail of somebody else? Is your life based on what they're doing? Are you kind of obsessed with what someone else is doing because you feel like they're with the in crowd, they're the ones that are getting the invites? You need to start your own line. You need to be the leader of your own line and let people follow you. And what's really interesting is you would be shocked how many people come around. I guess the biggest trial for me was honestly when I did get to a point where physically I couldn't hide it anymore. I couldn't go to the parties without being obvious that I was suffering with something. So my biggest fear was that I would lose all my friends and people would just forget about me and just give up on me and maybe not invite me anywhere. But interestingly enough, and I learned this because I had no choice but to learn it, I had to let go of everything. And the people that did step forward, that did come toward me and did keep inviting me, and did spend time with me and visiting with me, etc., are solid individuals. They are really good friends. It's almost like weeding your yard. It's like you don't realize how many people are just fair-weathered friends until you really let go. And then you see who is there for you. And then that circles back around to priorities, to gratitude, and be grateful for those people that are in your life. Whether they're friends, a spouse, children, just be grateful for the love that the solid individuals bring to your life. And even when things seem like they mean so much, like if you feel like, if I don't stay connected to this person, will I not be invited to the parties? Honestly, it's interesting because in time you look back and all of that stuff is so irrelevant. It really is. And what is relevant is, of course, the people that are there for you, the people that are in your life, the things that God has given you, your gratitude, but also is the self-confidence that you've developed. You've become a leader. You've become an individual You don't have to hang on to somebody else's shirt tails. You don't have to be a follower. You will be a leader. And it doesn't mean you have to stand up and lead a large group. No, you be the leader of your own life. And that is invaluable. That is really something to have gratitude for, is the freedom to be you and for you to love you. And in doing so, everyone else around you loves you also. It goes full circle. So in summing this up, no, we don't need to have our lives hard. It's actually very simple, and that is gaining self-confidence, being a leader, not a follower, keeping your priorities straight, being grateful for those that are around you, that love you. And don't look beyond them thinking you need to search elsewhere, because that in itself is invaluable. And don't judge anyone else, because it's not our business what anyone else does or what decisions they make, unless you have a true concern. And that concern is out of love. But for the most part, don't gossip because you don't feel good after you do it. And actually, when you become a gossiper, it is showing that you have your own lack. When you get to the point where you don't need to talk about anyone, that you can look at people around you and just love them unconditionally, and they love you also. What a wonderful place to be. So your life, right here, right now, is exactly where it's supposed to be. And if you can't see that, you need to tweak your thinking a little bit and have gratitude for what you do have, who's in your life. And you need to feel good enough about yourself to not want to put anyone else down, to look at people with love. We all have good points. We all have weak points. We are all human beings. And if there is something that's bothering you, that's making your life more difficult, as I mentioned in an earlier episode, usually these thoughts come to you in the evening. They aren't real. We go back to the meditating and praying and just relax. Keep your mind calm so that you can get your answer, so God can give you your answer. I'm going to give you a little example of that. And this just happened like 4 or 5 days ago. I needed a repairman for something that was very important that it be repaired, or it could have been potentially dangerous. And they told me they would be there in the afternoon, and they didn't show up. That evening, I checked my phone, and there was a message saying something that was unfavorable, and I started to stress, especially since it was, again, late at night. I couldn't do anything about it. So in knowing what I've learned, I decided to let it go. I thought, I'm not going to think about it now. I'm going to let it work itself out. So in keeping my mind relaxed, I went to sleep, and in the morning I woke up, and the answer was there. It came to me of who to call. So I called someone that referred me to somebody else, and that gave me complete peace of mind. So what I'm saying is I would have wasted the whole night being stressed, probably unable to sleep. But by deciding that things that happen in the middle of the night are not real, or they always look worse at night, put it out of my mind and think that I'll deal with it in the morning. Be able to get sleep so you feel better in the morning. And things just happen to work themselves out. The answer was there by morning. With all that being said, these are all steps to make life easier. The question is, does life always have to be so hard? Or can life be easy? And honestly, just adjusting your thinking, tweaking it a little bit, keeping your priorities straight, having gratitude. And the answer is no, life doesn't have to be so hard. We need to start with the gratitude to God that He's letting us live life. So again, let's go back to thanking God for letting us live. With that being said, God bless you, and I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.